Thanks for coming to do this with me. This is a new gig for me tonight. Each year, we sort of have collaboratively thought about what different angle that would be helpful for me to bring on board. And so tonight, what I want to do is I want to talk about sort of hands-on, in a way, staying connected with kids, with adolescents, under very trying and difficult and highly conflicted and confusing, go away, come here, kind of messages from them. And I guess what I'm really hoping to do is to really have a discussion and practice some things that show up in the relationship with your kids about how you show up, and that the kinds of regulation and engagement that they require begin with you. So I'm going to go through sort of how to do it and how to think about it, and I'm really interested in feedback about what works tonight in the next hour or so and what doesn't, because I'm trying out some new stuff on you guys, because I didn't know how many people are going to be coming back from last year, so I thought I'd change it up a little bit. And it did seem that there's a lot of anxiety and worry about our kids here, and that people are spending a lot of energy fretting. I'm a parent too, so I get to say this from the inside also, that we spend a lot of mental real estate fretting about our kids, and surprisingly little about what we're doing or not doing to keep them engaged and to keep ourselves in balance enough to not only say crazy things to them. So I'm hoping that over the course of the evening we'll make the case that we remain a very valuable and essential resource to our kids all the way through their 20s and on beyond. But in terms of these really strong parenting functions, I think that we need to be doing more, not less, over time, contrary to what the common wisdom is. I want to talk about our own self-awareness, and then at the end we'll practice this idea of setting limits with love. I'm going to spend some time practicing with you how to use the word "and," so that you can say something like, I can see you're really mad about this, and you can't go out. It's magic. And it takes practice because it seems kind of cheesy. I'm from southern Vermont, so I will say cheesy things to you and try to get away with it. So I want to have a discussion as we go on. I have three practice kind of things. You have a couple handouts. So as we go on, I have found this great Rumi quote. I think that what I want to talk about tonight is not about them, but about what you're doing, what we're doing, how we live in the world that creates barriers to the connection that we want with our kids. And that if we figure out ways to drop our barriers, interesting things can happen. So that's a nice Rumi quote. So what I want to do is I want to talk about mindfulness. How many of you do mindfulness things? Meditate, sit quietly, yoga, intentional practice of any kind? Okay, a few. So here's the deal. It turns out that people who are mindful have less crazy interactions with other people. You can write that down. And recent research is all over the mindfulness stuff, but most recently in terms of people who are having mindful relationships with other people. And the case that I'm going to be making tonight the whole way through is that our regulated brains regulate our kids' brains. And if we are dysregulated or we are not mindful, we're reactive and upset, dysregulated, we are not able to help them. And we engage in escalating, disrupted kinds of conversations. And so it begins at home. And the research on this is incredible because it used to be that people who meditated felt good within themselves. But it turns out that people who meditate have an amazing impact on other people. And parents on children, therapists who meditate have much better outcomes with their patients. And people in couples, relationships where there is mindful practice, they have much better outcomes in their marriages. So it's in all kinds of relationships also we're seeing it. So what I want to do is invite you to get relaxed. Well, wait, I have a better idea. Before you get relaxed, think about one of the reasons that brought you here tonight. Think about something about your child or a child in your care that you're worrying about, a recent conflict, something that if you gave it enough time and space would be upsetting to be thinking about. I'm trying to get you a little bit upset. And I want you to think about it on a 1 to 10 scale, where 10 is, I feel absolutely wretched about this, and 1 is nothing at all. I'd like you to come up with an event that has a higher trigger number, 7, 8 in there. And then I'm going to do a mindfulness exercise with you, and I'm going to ask you what number you're at after it. So we're going to do a little practice. So come up in your mind, get yourself a little upset. Tell me when you're upset. And you can shut your eyes. Get yourself as relaxed as you can in the space. Find a peaceful place to begin. Notice how you're feeling right now, physically and mentally. Take a deep breath in through your nose and release the breath through your mouth. That's right. Take another breath and allow your breathing to relax you as you exhale fully. Breathe in gently, and as you breathe out, let the air carry the tension out of your body. Continue to breathe slowly and gently as you begin to focus on relaxing your body. Notice where your body is tense. Focus your attention on one of these areas. As you breathe, picture that part of your body becoming slightly more relaxed than it was before. With each breath, that part of your body becomes a little more relaxed. Imagine what the relaxation feels like. Soft, gentle, calm, loose, free, and let that feeling of relaxation grow. Scan your body for any areas of tension, and for each area, let the relaxation soften the muscles as they give up their hold. Let the feeling of relaxation grow, spreading calm through your body. Breathe in relaxation and breathe out tension. Breathe in calm and let all of the tension go as you exhale. Continue to breathe slowly and gently, deepening your state of relaxation more and more with each breath. Deeper and deeper, more and more relaxed, calm, at peace. Now begin to create a picture in your mind. Imagine a place where you feel completely at ease. This might be a favorite place you have been, or some place you have seen, or it might be completely imaginary. It's up to you. Picture this place where you feel happy and calm. Create the details about this place in your mind. Visualize the sights, sounds, and smells of your place. Imagine how you feel physically. You are comfortable, enjoying the pleasant temperature, enjoying being still and relaxed, or doing whatever enjoyable activities you participate in here. Enjoy the way you feel in this safe place. You feel safe and calm here, at peace with yourself. Remain in this peaceful place while you meditate calmly. Imagine that all of the following affirmations are true for you right now in this moment, and enjoy the relaxation you experience. Repeat each affirmation in your mind with conviction. Use your imagination to fully believe each affirmation. I am at peace with myself. I appreciate who I am. I value myself as a person. All people have value, and I am a valuable human being. I deserve to relax. I deserve to be happy. I embrace my happy feelings and enjoy being content. I look forward to the future and I enjoy the present. I feel good about who I am today. I imagine and believe that all of these affirmations are true for me right now in this moment, and enjoy the self-esteem relaxation I am experiencing. I do not have to be perfect to be okay as a person. I am a human being with flaws. I enjoy being who I am and love myself as I am. All of the strengths I have ever had are present in me today. I accept myself. I care for myself. I am all right just the way I am. I accept myself. I am a valuable human being. I accept myself. I feel confident. I accept myself. I feel secure. I accept myself. I accept myself. Think again about your peaceful place. Picture yourself enjoying this environment. Acknowledge your relaxation, your feelings you are experiencing. Accept your feelings. Allow yourself to feel calm and at peace. Now it is time to leave your special place. Know that you can return here in your imagination anytime to relax, feel calm and relaxed, and feel comfortable and safe. Take with you the feelings of acceptance of yourself and belief in your capacity to relax. Continue to feel positive and accepting of yourself. Hold on to this secure feeling of self-esteem as we return to the room. In a moment, I will count to 3, and you can slowly become energized and return to the room. 1, take a deep cleansing breath in, and exhale slowly. 2, take another deep breath, and exhale. 3, you are feeling calm, confident, and refreshed. So, how are you feeling? Did anyone before the meditation have a number 6, 7, or 8 up there? Did anybody have a high number of tension that they could summons? What are you down to right now?
I don't even remember I had a body.
What do you notice?
I feel relaxed and grounded.
Great.
And anything's possible and nothing is a problem.
Good. That won't last, so enjoy it. Great. Anybody else want to say what they're noticing? Is anybody more tense than they were? Okay. Did some people think they could just doze right off at that point? That's good. Okay. So I want you to hold on to this, because this is a scaffolding for what we're going to be talking about for the next hour, okay? I believe that there is really one big question in life, that all of the conflict and difficulty we have in our human relationships boils down to one question: will you be there for me when I need you? Can I depend on you? Can I lean on you? Are you reliable? If you think about all the conflicts you've had with all the people you love in the last little while, I promise you that you'll be able to translate that into this question. All the other conflicts boil down to it. We all need people that we can depend on, that we can rely on, that are there for us. And when we're children, it's our parents, and maybe when we're younger adolescents, our parents. And then if we're lucky enough and we find a nice partner or a community of adults or people, we have them. But there's this black hole of love and awareness in late adolescence, mid-adolescence, where parents start thinking, he doesn't need me so much anymore. She needs to learn to stand on her own 2 feet. And suddenly, this question, will you be there for me when I need you, gets very, very confusing in its being answered. And without that, we're just barely surviving. We're not going to make it. We're not going to make it as successful adults. We're not going to make it in our new relationships with our kids as they become adults. People become regulated. People become safe in the context of relationships. They can't do it by themselves. Infants learn self-soothing when they are upset. Those of you, some of you have little kids still at home? Anybody have like 2, 3, 4-year-olds in there? Remember the monsters under the bed period? When your kid had monsters under the bed, what did you do?
You look under the bed.
Yeah, you look under the bed, and then what do you say? No monsters there, I'm here. And you comfort them, right? Why do we do that? We do that because we want to help them feel safe and secure and beloved, right? And we want to be there for them and be reliable for them. And they learn to soothe themselves from knowing what it feels like to be soothed. None of us learns how to do this if we haven't had it done for us. That's why the kids who are in the system, foster care, abused and neglected kids, have such a harder time regulating themselves. They never learned what it felt like to be regulated by other people. And many of us who come from difficult upbringings, we might have some trouble ourselves doing that for ourselves, because we haven't had the experience of having it done for us, of being held and comforted and until the nightmare went away or the boogeyman disappeared from under the bed. Without significant practice feeling co-regulated, Babies don't learn how to comfort themselves. And even after you learn, you still need other people. I don't know about you, I get upset, I call my sister. Right? We lean on other people when we're upset. Even those of us that have huge toolboxes filled with self-soothing strategies, ways to comfort ourselves, we still need other people to do it for us. Right? Through all of our relationships and all of our lives, we have this practice that we're doing in being co-regulated, learning to feel comfort. When your beloved walks into the house, when your kid walks in, when your partner walks in, when someone you care about walks in, you down-regulate. You go, ah, you feel better. And we do this for each other as a species. When people are frightened, when that question, will you be there for me? Can I depend on you? When that question is not answered in the affirmative, it arouses in us ancient, from early infancy, attachment terrors. Helplessness, failure, abandonment, rejection, all of these terrible fears that we have when people can't be relied on make us really mad. It comes out a lot in aggression and rage. Our kids get mad at us when we're not reliable. We get mad at our partners when they're not reliable. What's really being triggered is not that we're mad. Your kid comes in, your teenager comes in 45 minutes, 2 hours, whatever, after curfew. What are you feeling while they're out of the house? Scared. Terror. They're not doing the thing that they need to do. And you get really dysregulated. And when they walk in the house, do you say, I was scared, or do you just start yelling? I don't know about you, I start yelling. But the fact is, the fears are that I'm having some terrible loss and helplessness. And those fears are as old as me, for me. They're as old as you for you. You following this okay? Am I okay so far? Okay. So here's the paradox out there. There's a couple paradoxes in this talk. Here's the first one. The most securely independent, confident, outgoing, on their own, off the island, see you later kids are the most securely attached. You can't be confidently, there's no such thing really as independence. There's only successful and unsuccessful dependence. For some of us, the dependence works really well. We come up with a way to stay close to people, and that ability enables us to get on with our lives. We're not in this preoccupied place with it. And we're making a really big mistake as a culture trying to launch these kids before they're ready. Because we have to be for them the person that they can depend on until they can go do this for themselves. And if they can't, and we launch them too soon, all kinds of problems and vulnerabilities come out. And I think that the culture that I was raised in as a baby boomer, I'm older than most people here, but was this idea that we had to separate and individuate and go stand on your own 2 feet. And when you turn 18, how many of you flew the coop when you were 18? So quite a few, right? How many of you have kids that you think are going to do that? Look around. This is really important. Maybe, maybe, maybe. But look around, because this is a very important point. It's a new normal out there, very, very different trajectory. And part of a lot of reasons for it. One is that we didn't like that very much. We missed something in not losing that intimacy with our parents, and we're not willing to do it with our own kids. And our kids don't want it either. So there's a different sort of cultural shift that's going on in terms of the kind of intimacy that parents want with their kids and kids want with their parents. And the paradox is that if you can keep that container strong for as long as they need it, they'll be on their own and still stay connected. From infancy on, we regulate within the context of relationships. We don't do it for ourselves. This cultural emphasis we have is fixing it yourself. We tell kids to go to their room. We say time out, right? And the idea is this: go off by yourself and calm down. And that's true, sometimes people do it. Another piece of this, though, is sometimes you say, time in, come closer, don't go to your room, I am here, I can help you calm down. And you got to know when's when, but we spend a lot of time sending people away. Screaming yourself into exhaustion is not the same as becoming regulated and self-soothing. So if you have a tremendously disrupted, upset kid on your hands, making them go to their room to calm down may exceed what it is they're capable of doing. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to talk at and to them, but we're in the presence of somebody we love and we calm down, even without any dialogue at all. Do you know that I'm talking about? You have people, do people understand what I'm saying? Because it's a pretty big point for us in our lives. And then when we translate it to our relationships with our kids, it gets even more interesting. So it's good to understand the point. So the next paradox is that we really do expect them to be able to regulate themselves when they can't. Calm down. You're acting like a child. Stop being so ridiculous. You're being emotional. I have daughters, so. I had my older kid, when she was 14 or so, was crying, and I asked her what was wrong, and she said, "Even if I knew, I wouldn't tell you." Which I thought was great. She had no idea why she was crying. But we expect them to, they don't even know why they're upset, and we expect them to regulate, right? So actually, during times of stress, they require more, not less. And we are offering less. Oh, he's going to be on his own in a couple of years. He's got to learn to do this for himself. There's no way. How do you learn how to do this without having it done for you? Everybody on board still? Jump in if you need to. Okay. Pooh, whispered Piglet. Yes, Piglet, said Pooh. Oh, nothing, said Piglet. I was just making sure of you. When your kids were little, do you remember this little cutest period of time where like 2 or 3, they're off playing and they come back and they go pat, pat, pat on your knee and then they go off and play again? Do you remember that? That kind of checking in thing, or they'd come pile something on you, or they'd come climb up onto your lap for a second and then they'd squirm off and get down. Do you remember this at all? Adolescence is a lot like that. And they need to be sure of where you are and what you're doing and what your response is going to be, and that we do what it is we say we're going to do. And again, this is not, I'm not describing an intervention with a huge amount of processing and dialogue and how do you feel, or it's just presence, it's calm presence. It's, want a cup of tea? It's simpler than some deep psychological thing. It has to do with, well, people talk about the feeling part of the brain, the limbic. How many people went to the whole psychiatrist that presented here? A bunch of you? Okay, she talked about problem solving, right, executive functioning. The emotional part of the brain, the limbic system, we have this thing in relationships that, I love this expression, it's sort of crazy, but it's called limbic resonance, right? And my limbic brain, my emotional brain, which is cool and calm, actually cools and calms my kids. And so when 2 emotional brains are attuning to each other, the calmer brain can calm down the hot brain. And we do this in all of our relationships. But with hot-brained adolescents, it's a particularly important skill, which is why I had you calm down at the beginning. So I want to talk about this idea, sort of a DNA idea, that at the fundamental level of our relationships with our kids and adolescents is these 2 skill sets, mentalization and mindfulness. And so to become more regulated, they need us to help them learn to do this, right? I've made that point. And in order to do it, we have to have on board these two skill sets, okay? Mentalization is how we think about things. I'll explain it more. It sounds kind of woo-woo at this point. And being able to interpret other people's behaviors in terms of what they must be thinking, or what they might be thinking, or how they might be thinking about a problem. And people talk about it as mind sight, having a theory of mind. And good parents are able to kind of read their kids. I know that he's acting this way because he was embarrassed, right? He's thinking that was really embarrassing what just happened, right? And we know, when we know that, we kind of want to protect them from, you know, the shame or embarrassment. That when you have a theory of mind, you are able to enter, which is also how you're thinking about things and how the other person is, you're able to enter into a much more nuanced kind of conversation. And the thing about this is that we get very hooked into explanations that don't help us. So, and our explanation for what the child arousal is doing guides and directs how we proceed. So if you believe your kid is not doing his homework and being defiant, to be manipulative and controlling, your response is going to be taking power away, you're going to try to take control. You're going to get into a power struggle because your explanation for what's going on, your idea of what's in his mind is that he's trying to get away with something. But what if your story was different? What if your understanding of what was happening was not that? What if your understanding of what was happening was that he is incompetent and does not have the skill set to get himself up and out in the morning anymore? Something happened while he slept between ages 14 and 15, and he cannot organize his time in the morning anymore. Poor thing. Would that change your interaction? If you understand the behavior differently, if your idea of your theory of mind, or your own mind, if you think he's just doing this, why would a child try to drive the parent that they love the most in the world nuts? We get into that, oh, he can drive me crazy. No, he's doing the best he can, and you're doing the best you can. And we need to come up with a story or a way of understanding our own thinking and the thinking of our kids that moves the agenda down and doesn't just get into these power struggles and get into these really stuck stalemate places. The second piece of this is mindfulness. And part of it is not taking things so personally, not getting so attached to outcomes, to interpretations, and just noticing and being present and attuned in your own life. And the bottom line is that if you can stay present in an interaction with your child and regulated and calm and attuned to what's happening with this limbic resonance stuff, something different is going to happen than has been happening. You're not going to get into the old story again. You're going to be present in a way that enables you to begin to carve out a new story. The fact of the matter is this: only adults think and feel like adults. The reason why your child or your adolescent is being irrational, is being a bad planner, is being impulsive, is that he is or she is a child or an adolescent. There was this guy, Dan Weinberger, at the National Institute of Health, who wrote this great paper. Actually, it was after the Columbine shooting. And he proposed that we get adults to offer a land-lease prefrontal cortex program for adolescents until they can develop their own. So until they develop those executive functioning, problem-solving, reasoning, these regulatory skills, guess what? Whose job is it? It's our job to do it for them and with them. If they don't have the skills to do it, asking them to problem solve like an adult is going to lead to incredible frustration and disappointment for all involved. Any feedback so far here? Comments, questions?
Yeah, I've raised a son and I have a daughter, a teenager, and it's not just my family, but it seems like boys have a hard time like in high school with organization and like staying on track, and girls seem to do it so well. And I wonder,
Does anybody have a daughter they want to beg to differ? You know, one of the genders, there are differences, you know, and people. It's so funny to me. People are always saying, well, if you have daughters, you won't understand, or the differences within gender. We just talked about this last night. The differences within gender are much greater than the differences between genders, but we're often labeling the problem in terms of gender when it's just your kid. And it could have some gender-related qualities to it, but I've seen very tightly organized boys and girls whose rooms look like bombs have been detonated in them.
I'm not talking about their rooms, I'm talking about in terms of the capacity to be organized in your life, in terms of the responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, girls grow up a little. They do, you know, neuromature a little bit faster than boys, and that might be what you're saying. I also think that the way schools are set up are much more girl-friendly environments now in terms of the level of organization and shifting and management of body in small spaces. You could invent a much better boy-friendly curriculum, which would be probably a much more physically engaged, hands-on kind of, I mean, so again, there's a big range here, but it does seem that part of what happens for boys is that the environment is not friendly to their learning style necessarily. And you see this certainly in, you know, kindergarten, first, second, third grade. That difference really shows up sort of in aggregate. There are obviously boys who are very high functioning in that environment. But if you listen to who the teacher's yelling at to sit down and keep his hands to himself in kindergarten, it's more often a boy. So usually one boy, Sam, sit down, Sam. You know, there's always like one kid. You hear if you go into a consult in a classroom, I hope nobody has a kid named Sam. Yes?
I have a 13-year-old boy who is very oriented toward self-reflection, and he's always had a lot of existential angst, and I relate to that because I did too, and do. But it's interesting that we talk about how he's feeling constantly.
Yeah.
And
wow.
we've even gotten to the point now where he's not allowed to do screens most of the time, and this is going to sound awful, but it's basically until you get a life. Like, you have to get a life.
Yeah.
He'll say, well, what do you mean? What should I do? And I'm like, you know, how do I get one? And I said, well, it's your life. Just figure something else out to do. And we're just like,
yeah, he can't figure that out.
So, and he has a therapist, and his therapist has been telling us, you know, that in some ways we're overindulging this inclination to, you know, he's becoming an ingrown toenail. You know, we're kind of just being indulgent about his constant reflection, and yet it's like he needs a roadmap all the time, and it is helpful. Like when we get out, go for a walk, and talk about what's going on, he can get going faster. But I'm just curious what you think about that related to.
Yeah, well, it's great. I mean, you're lucky. You have a reflective child. Congratulations. You have a reflective child, I'm so sorry. It's a little of both, isn't it? It seems to me that he needs you. This, I think, what follows from my point tonight earlier, is that he can't do this for himself. Go get a life. He has no idea. I mean, he understands all those words in order, but there are kids that can't initiate tasks outside. And I'm studying internet and, you know, the Facebook phenomenon and the electronic stuff, and I'm such an old person, so I'm trying to put my old people biases at the door and just try to really understand their meaning making of all the screen time. And the only thing I'm feeling right now is that there's not a lot of research yet, but the thing I feel most confident that would come out of is going to come out is the biggest point is that in order to have limbic resonance, you sitting here, people will watch this tape, hello to people who are watching this tape, but what's happening with you and me right now can't be replicated by having people watch a tape. That there's something in the actual human brain-to-brain, heart-to-heart contact that you and I are having right now that doesn't have a substitute. And the kids who are screen kids, and we all have them, who are developing kind of a virtual life more than a real life, that we have to really help them keep in the real life. I read this article, this kid got into NYU and went to NYU, and he got cut off from friending people. It was a couple years ago, but he had friended like 250 people in his class, but he hadn't met anyone yet. And the NYU counselor came up to him and said, we're not going to let you friend any more people. You have to learn to go say to someone, where are you from? What are you planning on studying? What dorm are you living in? He didn't know how to have like a normal conversation. So that's an extreme anecdote. But I think it points kind of what you're struggling with, which is that it's important to have a virtual life. I think they're going to anyway. It's so alluring and so exciting there on the web, but also a real life. And so it sounds like balancing out, you know, I don't know if you want to hour for hour. Like, in order to have an hour for hour, you can earn screen time by having a lifetime.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Is that we, you know, if you want screen time, show me.
No, but figure out what you want him to do. Because you know what's available.
But it's like, that's what I'm talking about. The constant conversation is that process.
Yeah.
Because he's feeling paralyzed by it, daunted by it, and so all this conversation, all these walks and talks at the kitchen table are all about just like the humongousness of all the possibilities. He's just paralyzed by it all, and wouldn't it be so much easier if he could just play Halo for an hour?
Yeah. Well, there's more options though. You know, what happens is either I'm going to, you know, about it, or I'm going to go into my virtual world. The idea is to fill up his toolbox with clubs and sports and activities and music and being in an orchestra or singing, or I mean, I don't know, he's an artistic kid, you know, to find out ways to keep these kids engaged also, and engage with you. Maybe you could sign up for something with him. I mean, you know, take a pottery class together. So you have a thing that you're doing. Do you know what I'm saying? That he can't do that for himself. I think that's my bottom line on that one. So, I want to, your Cortex Unlearned, this is a Zitz cartoon. He's about to go ski down the stairs. The reason he's not going to do it is that his mother is present and engaged and setting a limit that his brain is not able to do for himself. You're the adult. You choose how you want to live in the world. You choose as an adult what the emotional tone in your home is going to be. And this was this amazing concept to me when I realized this a few years ago. Like, I had these exciting moments where my daughter's dirty breakfast bowl was in the sink in the evening when I came home from work, and she was on vacation. And I had this moment, like, I could become a screaming lunatic and get into something, or I could do this following gesture. I could take the bowl out of the sink and lean over and put it in the dishwasher and have a nice evening. And I would choose that. I got to choose that. It was this incredibly powerful moment. And I'm making light of it, but it actually really was. And there is a way to set the frame, to hold the frame, to decide how important these things are in order to create a structure that enables the intimacy to continue and doesn't lead to one rupture after another after another. Because with her, it would have been easy just to be yelling at her all day long, every day. And delightful in some ways, because I was so righteous. But I gave up that path because it was too upsetting. I'd be upset forever, you know. It wasn't worth that. So your cool brains regulate their hot brains. This is a parent chicken setting a limit on the baby chicken, saying, "You're free range when I say you're free range." I like that. So you have a worksheet, 2 worksheets, and I want to try one of them with you. And the first one, this first worksheet, it says tuning into yourself. Do you have it there? It's a grid. And I want, before you do it, there's pencils in the back if you need a pencil. Before you do it, I want to make sure we're clear on why I'm asking you to do it. So if you have questions about this, I want to have a conversation about it. I want you to go back to that difficult situation that you had in your mind when we began the meditation. And I want you to think about that, and instead of focusing externally on what was going on for your adolescent or child, I want you to think about yourself and what it was like for you in that worrisome time, in that frustrating time, in that difficult time. What was going on in your body? What were you experiencing? See if you can remember that and write down some observations. Heart rate, breathing, muscle tension, temperature, how disconnected you felt, how agitated you felt. Was it a situation that you could have maybe gotten to a really, really miserable, screaming, yelling, hitting kind of place, losing control? Were there warning signs like, if I keep at this, it's going to turn south fast? See if you can remember what you were thinking about in the situation. What were you thinking about yourself? What you were thinking about your child? If you were thinking, he does this on purpose, why is he doing this to me now? I'm so overwhelmed. I can't believe his father doesn't help out. Feeling. You don't have to share this with everyone so you can really be honest. You can share it. Happy for sharing, but think about how sad and how helpless and disengaged and frustrated, how angry you were feeling. In that situation, what did you do? Did you escalate, draw? Did you repeat yourself over and over again? Did you get more and more angry? Did you start taking away more privileges? What else was going on that you want to make a note about? Were you able to get other people to help you? Did you retreat and get into the same fight again the next day? Did you go take a bath or a hike? As you're wrapping that up, can you tell me what it's like to think about yourself this way? What do you notice from doing this exercise? So you're a little ashamed, because that's an interesting pull right there too. So you don't feel good about the interactions, that your role in the interaction. And not only that, can I keep going on this because I don't know you, so I'm making this part up, but it's much easier to think about how your kid screwed up the interaction. Yeah, but we're like this, but he started it, or, right? And we get into this space. It's much easier to point the finger at them and analyze and interpret and judge and criticize them than ourselves. So I really appreciate your candor. Thank you for that.
But that's also more supportive to point their finger at them. I don't think that there's a lot of people saying, well, what did you do in the situation? There's more people saying, yeah, those adolescents, it's so difficult.
That's why these guys hired me to do this tonight. It's not that fun to have the mirror held back up to us. It's not that fun to have, well, he has to live with this. What do you expect him to do, right? Ouch.
It reminds me of when my kids were really little, I'd lie down with them so they'd go to sleep. And it was always the nights when I really needed to get up and get stuff done that they couldn't go to sleep. And I finally figured, that's not...
What do we make of that?
My cool brain wasn't working.
Yeah.
It was no mystery. It's like, I'm anxious to get up,
Yeah.
so they're
Yeah.
anxious to... They're getting...
Yeah.
So when I breathed and relaxed, they fell asleep.
It's so hard being the grown-up.
I fell asleep too.
It is so, yeah, and then you fall asleep too when you finally let it down also.
It doesn't stop when they're 5.
But the thing here is, and I want to make this really clear, this isn't about shaming us. This is about us taking control of the thing we actually have control over. Because, honey, it's not your kid that you have control over, it's yourself. And, you know, this is brutal information as far as I'm concerned. Because I keep thinking, maybe I'll have control over this boyfriend or, you know, this selection of, he's not who I would have wanted her to bring home. I'm thinking, well, I have a 20-year-old, right? I'm thinking, well, do I get to choose who she brings home? Like, really? What I do have control over is being nice to the guy so I don't estrange my kid. I have some control over that. So the looking back into the mirror, as unpleasant as it might be at first, is it tremendously empowering because it gives us the capacity to be mindful and in control of and attend to and live the actual life we do have control over. So it's kind of a liberation, I think, that I'm offering you here. As long as you're saying, I can't get him to do anything different. What do I do about, no, but Marty, what do I do about him? I'm like, well, let's talk about you for a minute and me for a minute. Because if we, as your brilliant example was, if we're okay and regulated, beautiful things happen. Every cool, relaxed conversation you have with your child is a beautiful thing, is an intimacy building experience, and is money in the bank for those later, you know, less beautiful ones. You know, our regulation, our doing our own work, enables them to take responsibility for their own feelings. And when we can separate out whose anxiety it is, whose anger it is. So I'm going to tell you about this other mindfulness exercise, but I think we're not going to do it right now because I want to make sure we have time for conversation and for this other larger group work. But I want to tell you about this RAIN thing. RAIN is an acronym for a way of practicing how to be in a relationship with another person so that you're really showing up in this authentic present way that's good and is the life that you have right now. And the R is for recognition. And what you do is you keep in your awareness what's going on here in this very moment now. What you're feeling, what your sensations are in the present moment, what your child is presenting, aware just in this time. Not, he always does this, or I think this is going to happen next, just in the now moment. Just not even any judgment, just noticing. I'm starting to feel a little anxious and tense. She's starting to back out of the room. Something is going on here that is disruptive. That feels dysregulating. Here's the deal. That's acceptance. It's not that you're accepting the bad behavior, but you're accepting that you're going in. I had a patient I was working with, and I was trying to explain this to him over and over again, and he goes, "Oh, Marty, you mean turn into the skid." It's a Vermont kind of metaphor. Yeah, so the idea of acceptance is not that you're going to be accepting some horrible, rude behavior, but you are going to be accepting that you're going in to have a conversation and engage fully in this moment with your child about it. You know, roll up, get out of your spacesuit. The defenses that we have built against being hurt or vulnerable make us isolated and lonely. And we miss our kids when that happens. I is for investigation. Being curious. So instead of going to the shame place, say, wow, I really was pretty rude back to him again. Or I mean, I don't know what you wrote on your sheet, but that kind of thing. Well, instead of judging it and criticizing it and shaming yourself, just be curious. Wow, what's going on? I'm really getting worked up here. I'm feeling like I'm going to get like acid indigestion or something. Wow, this is triggering for me what's going on. She's only 15 minutes late. Why am I being like, you know, what is going on? This is so interesting. And then N is non-identification. Don't take it so personally. We take it so personally. Don't think it's all about me. I was such a bad parent, no wonder. So often people say that, right? Oh gosh, it's all about me. Nah, don't take it so personally. It's just gonna happen. Your child is who he is, who she is. They get to be mad, they get to be sad, it stinks. I understand that. But those are their feelings, and you know that when you get really upset, you're not gonna stay upset. You won't even remember about it in 2 years from now. Maybe even by tomorrow you'll have forgotten. Maybe even in an hour you won't be so upset. Maybe even if you breathe and go to that nice place or give yourself a chance to kind of regroup, 10 minutes it's going to pass. Could. So you have that worksheet and you can go, you can do that on your own if you feel like it. Are there questions about it, about how you would do it, or you can check it out? And the idea is to be mindful. This is a mindfulness exercise. Instead of reacting, this is an exercise that teaches you to be responsive. So there's a big difference between reaction and responding. Reacting is whatever you feel like saying comes out of your mouth. I don't know about you, but reacting doesn't always work for me. In fact, there's this guy, John Gottman, who does couples research, and he found out that if your pulse rate is over 70, only stupid things come out of your mouth. So if you are in a hot brain place and you are in a reactive place, the things that you're going to say you are going to regret, they're going to be less productive, they're going to come from not a centered, mindful place, but I want to hurt this person, I want to dominate this person place. People are smiling like nervously. You know just what I mean. And the genius of this, of course, is if you know this and you feel yourself, I mean, I do this 1 to 10 stuff all the time because I feel like after a 7, I'm a goner. And usually these conversations are with people that I love the most in the world, my partner, my kids, right? And so I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to have that. I mean, what would be the point of that? The person I love the most in the world, I'm now going to savage and say terrible things. I could choose not to do that. I could choose to come back later and say, Molly, I'm at a 7 right now. I need a chance to take a chill. Let's have this conversation in 10 minutes. So you come back to it again. Or she can say, Mom, my kids, they're psychologist kids. They go, Mom, I'm feeling dysregulated. So, okay, well, when you're regulated, I'm here. And it's not like you withdraw, but you withdraw from the intense craziness. I worked with a family a couple years ago, and I had taught them this. And mother and daughter came in. They came into my office, and I said, how's it going? I've been working with them for a while. And the mother said, we had a terrible weekend. And the daughter was like, yeah, you tell her. And so the story unfolds, an amazing story actually, that they get into some hot button conflict, and the mom is in a reactive place. She's not in a mindful place. And the daughter, who has been taught by me to say, I'm at a 7, I'm feeling dysregulated, whatever it is, says to the mom, I'm feeling dysregulated, I need just to calm down now. And the mother says, you haven't apologized to me. You have to apologize. We're not done. And the daughter says, no, Marty said I was supposed to tell you when I was feeling dysregulated that we didn't have to have this conversation, that it was going to turn south. And the daughter starts to walk away, which is exactly what I had taught them. So I was totally psyched, thinking, oh, this is good. But then the following story unfolds. The mother starts following the daughter, saying, you haven't apologized to me. You didn't apologize. And the daughter starts walking faster. And the mother starts walking faster. They have this open concept living room thing, and they literally start kind of running around with, I'm dysregulated. You have to apologize. I'm dysregulated. And it was a nightmare. And the mother came in, and she was a basket case. And I don't know how many of you are in therapy or have been, but when your therapist says, let's just bring the feeling into the room, let's just sit with this a minute. It's because they have no clue what is going on, which is what I did and said. I had like, I'm thinking, wow, I know this woman, I know this family, this is pretty nuts. And so we sat with it, and the mother just started to sob. And we sat with that, and I said, can you tell us about what happened? And she had an abuse history as a kid, which she had dealt with enough. Of course, our kids bring up all kinds of unfinished business. And the people who had hurt her, these caregivers, had never apologized to her. And when she was getting into hot-button conflict with her daughter, she wasn't being present and mindful and in the current relationship. She was bringing up all the old people. The daughter was sort of becoming a perpetrator, and the daughter had issues. I mean, the daughter was up in her face. I'm not getting the daughter completely off the hook here in the interaction. But the mother's reaction wasn't about responding to the daughter being rude. It was this much bigger thing. And the daughter came over to the mom and sat down next to her and held her hand. It was just absolutely beautiful moment. But to get to that moment, and to get to subsequent moments where the mother was practicing a kind of present ability to mentalize and be mindful, the daughter doesn't become a perpetrator or somebody else. She becomes my bratty kid who's being a little bit obnoxious and rude. And then you deal with that in the moment. You decide, that's not such a big deal. Or maybe it is. It's not such a big deal. Any comments or questions about the rain thing? So the attachment paradox is this. There is no such thing as separation and individuation without connection. We all have to stay connected to other people for our survival. No one can self-regulate, can self-soothe without having also co-regulation in their lives and having historically had quite a lot of it. We shouldn't expect people to have to do that. If you have a sense of yourself as securely loved and competent at being loved and at loving, you will function more happily and securely and independently in the world. Kids who grow up insecure, who are anxious or preoccupied, are avoidant of intimacy and connection, who don't have the long heart-to-hearts, have more trouble. They have more trouble in development, they have more trouble as adults, and they're at grave risk for all kinds of social, emotional, and developmental problems. These are not opposing dynamics. It's not must pick one. We're all interdependent. And my generation was raised not understanding that. And I'm really appreciative that we are working so consciously. I mean, parenting. Our parents didn't talk about parenting. It's like a word that our generation, they weren't worried about that. We're spending so much more time and effort trying to figure out how to sustain and be supportive and available to our kids in these relationships. And we should. I'm glad we're doing it. Something I'm proud about as boomers. So when we're talking about setting limits, and when we're talking about staying in a relationship even in high conflict situations, or frustrating or upsetting or worrisome situations, the idea is this. And you can go back to any other ways of doing it. This is just my ideas, right? I don't know. I don't have some definitive answer, but I want to give you what I think is true. And if it's not working for you, what you're doing, you might want to try something like this. And then you can go back to doing what you're doing if you don't like it. I think that we get into power struggles as opposed to get into loving limits. And grounding doesn't work, but holding adolescents closer works. And you might think this is semantics, and maybe it is. I don't think so, though. I think what I'm really getting at is something more. What I'm getting at is providing a safe container, a safe holding environment, a way of holding close our kids so that they're safe and loved. And that it isn't setting limits for power, isn't setting limits just to show them who's boss, but to show them empathy and awareness and generosity. And so I'm interested in working with you for the last couple of minutes here of my presentation before we can get into discussion, hear what's on your minds about how to do this and how to do something. Here's one more cartoon, though. Well, it strikes me as hilariously ironic that someone as small as me is such a challenge to two people as huge as you. It is amazing how empowered they are. And we want them to have a voice. The last thing we want to do is send one more shut-up girl, boy, out into the world. We want them to be able to speak up for themselves. But I always say to kids, I love your spirit, let's work on your style. So, oh, this is kind of, I wonder why it's interesting that on the slide it's all bold and dark. Is it okay on your copy of what you have there? Or is it microscopic? Can you see it enough? Okay, we'll do the best we can. So I want to come up with somebody will volunteer some, wow, this is very, very faint. I'm so sorry about that. Will you be able to, will you be able to put up the slides, the hard copy of them for the taping? Okay, so the idea is this: how we attune, how we develop mind sight and try to set this kind of empathic and attuned limit with kids with this magic and. And the way, one way we can do it is come up with a scenario of something. Adolescent, do something very neutral. Adolescent wants a 10 o'clock curfew when they have a 9:30 curfew. They want a midnight curfew when they have an 11 curfew. Is that something you have, is that a generic enough? Is there, somebody have one they really want us to all practice on for them, with them? Because we don't have to do that. No, you're okay with that one? Okay. So this is what I want you to help me do. I'm going to tell you something to attune into. The second part of it's going to be, and your curfew is 11. Okay? So I'm not asking you to be namby-pamby about the curfew if it's something you're not going to negotiate on. Okay? So facial expression. What do you notice? It can also be lack of expression or a certain facial expression. So how could you say something you notice? I see what? What would you see in a kid that's fighting for a later curfew? What might you see in a, what is it?
I see that you're upset about this.
I see that your face is upset. You look upset about this. And curfew is at 11. Okay, very excellent. Tone of voice. What can you notice in their tone of voice that shows that they're distressed? Okay. I see that I can hear that you're getting, louder and more adamant, and curfew is still at 11. Oh, you guys are good. What about extent of speech? My kids, when they're lobbying for something, they get very verbal, highly verbose. I can see that you have a big argument at the ready here. And I'm so glad that you've thought through what might be persuasive to me. And your curfew is still at 11. How about quality or fluency of speech? Do your kids ever get so upset that they're like basically stuttering? And I can see this is so upsetting to you that you can hardly get the words out. And your curfew is still at 11. You see, does this seem cheesy?
A little bit.
A little cheesy.
But it's not going to come off as like sarcastic.
Well, don't do it sarcastic. 'Cause if it comes out of that place, just be obnoxious and set the limit and not have it.
But the point being that the fact that you're acknowledging and observing and tuning into their emotions calms them down like instantly.
Fast. I'll tell you something. People talk about wanting to be seen and being heard and all this. People want to feel felt. And so if you're doing it from a cheeseball place of like, oh, I can see you're pissed now.
Your curfew's still 11.
And I'm not bad. You can say, I can see this is really important to you. I can tell you're really upset about this. I'm sorry this is so hard. And your curfew is still at 11.
But it's very validating.
Yeah.
They're still going to be, but there's some voice in their head that says, wow, she really sees me.
Yeah, right, because you don't get it. You don't get it. This really matters. I do get it. I see, I hear, I feel, I notice. Also, part of this is to help write over your old scripts that my kid is just trying to take me to the cleaners. If you're present, or, you know, my kid is just like my brother who bullied me, or like the mother situation. The idea about mindfulness and empathy and mentalization is that you are staying in the present moment, noticing, and noticing yourself too. We did that tuning into yourself. I'm feeling really tense. I can see you're upset, and I'm upset too. And your curfew is still at 11. So that you're staying in the present moment and the present connection. They're feeling felt and validated. And I love you so much, I just can't let you go out after that. It's not safe. Of course, around here, I don't know. Is it? Well, it's mixed, right? It could be summertime here. I don't know. It's the same thing here, right? They can get in trouble anywhere. But I'll tell you, at least where I am, there's not a lot going on after 1 in the morning. It's not a good time to be out in the middle of nowhere. Okay.
It helps too when you have a clear rule. Like, my son recently broke the house rule, and I said, you last week had 24 hours. And he had every argument, but it was such a clear rule. And I said, I know you're really upset. I'm upset. I don't want you to.
The only thing I would add to that, this is me on this is what take home from this, and you lose screen time and you have to hang out with me. I need you, and you have to help me in the kitchen, or you have to help me fold the laundry, or whatever it is. Because I think that this is again my thing about punishments not working. What I'm trying to get at is that when a kid is screwing up, we want to bring them closer in. With adolescents, just like with 2-year-olds or 5-year-olds or 8-year-olds or 11-year-olds. And so the temptation is to set the limit to punish, which is okay. It's a very clear consequence. It's a clear they don't work anyway. It's not going to hurt them. But it's not going to hurt. Punishments don't really work. They just make.
It just makes me feel better that I'm doing something.
Good, good, and do that, and also bring him closer. You violated a rule. I can see that you have too much freedom. I want you off the screen with me. So that would be my additional piece for all of you with this. As you come up with consequences and punishments, bring them in. The idea is not to punish yourself. Let's just try a couple more of these. Do one on yourself, reading your own response, where you would set the limit, but after registering something to them about you. What might you want to tell them about what's going on for you?
For me, it's about respect.
Yeah, I'm feeling really stressed about how disrespectful this is. Or this is really hurtful to me, how disrespectful this is, and your curfew is still at 11. You can do it that way too, because there's affect in the thing, and I think that's a valuable piece. So other kinds of things. Last year, I think I talked about various more simple techniques like the 3 baskets. I don't know if people remember this, but I want to go over that right before wrapping up here because it ties in with deciding if the curfew is still at 11. Imagine that there are 3 baskets. One is small, one is medium, and one is gigantic. Basket 1, basket 2, basket 3. Basket 3, which is gigantic, is everything you're going to give up fighting over. It's just not worth it. Harmony matters. Peace matters. Basket 1 is things that you will not bend on, that there's no negotiation, there's nothing. And you can tell your kids what goes in basket 1. For some people, it's respect, or being home on time, whatever that curfew is, or going to church on Sunday. I mean, people have rules. And I have no judgment about them. It's just really good, as you point out, for the adolescent to know what those basket 1 rules are. And if it's a basket 1, you don't have to process and negotiate anything. You can say, this is a basket 1. You have to call me if you're not coming home. It's basket 1, it's non-negotiable. Basket 2 is place where you would negotiate and compromise if people can be in a reasonable discussion with each other. And so you can say, actually, you want to come home at midnight? This is a basket 2. Let's talk about what you're going to be doing, what the exception is, how you're going to make up the sleep that you're missing, whatever it is, and then have a discussion. And if it turns south and your pulse gets over 70 or whatever, you say, this can't be a basket 2 if we can't have a basket 2 kind of discussion and negotiation about it. Let's try again later. And try again later. Okay, so that's a fun way to be clear about what you're willing to give up on for the sake of peace and connection, and what you're willing to be really clear and concise and decisive about to not have prolonged negotiation, but then also things that you're willing to negotiate about. So being present in our lives and the lives of our adolescents, that we talked about that tonight in the last hour, and every interaction you have in this precious life with another human being that is present, you're living the life you have. You're not worrying about the future or harboring resentments from the past. You're actually living the life you have. And they're not going to be under your roof forever. It might seem that way right now, and it might be longer than it was a generation ago. But this is precious time with your kids. And you won't regret having loving, peaceful negotiations. That won't be the thing that you regret. Gosh, we got along so well. That won't be the thing. And helping us take responsibility for our own choices and decisions and the emotional tone and how we want to live in the world. Understanding that they can't problem solve, figure out what activity they should go to next. There's a lot of things, if your child's not doing it, maybe he or she can't, and then we can help them. Instead of just yelling at them to do it and feeling wretched ourselves because what have I done wrong that my child doesn't know how to balance a checkbook, whatever it is. Using our cool limbic brains to co-regulate their hot brains, having the courage to stay close by, because I think it is an act of defiance and courage in the culture that we have to say, no, I'm not done. No, he's not done. No, she's not done with me yet. I'm still in. 16 years old, you still have 2, 4, 6 more years. And so when the kid is 16, you don't say to yourself, well, I'm pretty much done. You're not. Don't be upset with me about that. I've gotten some hostile emails after making that point. The power of you. You really matter. When I talk to kids who have gone through really rough passages, what do you want me to tell parents? I travel around, I talk to parents. They always say something like this: tell them not to give up. Tell them to hang in. Tell them that even when their kid says, go away, I hate you, you've ruined my life, to hang in, not to take it personally. There is no piece of research out there, there is no developmental accomplishment out there that the presence of parents doesn't help. There is no, it is on success of functionality. Parents who are disengaged and not helping and supporting their kids have worse outcomes across the board. And we're talking about school and intimate relationships and friendships and work. We're talking about come up with a demand. Involve parents' help. So we are almost out of time. I think we have about 5 more minutes. And that is pretty much my whole talk. So tell me what you think and feel. Questions, comments? Yes?
So the piece that you talked a lot about hot brains and cool brains.
Yes.
So I just think, I'm thinking about myself sometimes when I'm hot and somebody comes along and it's very calm, it kind of makes me more hot. Like that, so, and I've seen that with my interactions with my kids.
Well, that's great.
Like they're all wound up and I'm going, so, you know, and they're looking at me like,
well,
so is there something wrong with us?
No, I think that's a great point. I think sometimes people really get like almost a parody of a calm person. And those are the creepy calm mother voice. I see you're upset. To me, one of the things that happens with somebody whose brain is very, very hot, I mean, I think there's degrees. So you're describing someone who's really, really dysregulated. I think saying, I can see you're upset, I'm here, and not going too far away. I think that the constant talking at her too, it's like in the Peanuts comic strip, you start selling wah, 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 wah to them. And if you're already flooded, someone coming at you with a lot of language can be very, very overwhelming. But reassurance, I'm here when you're ready, gives them a chance without you removing. So to me, the beauty of the limbic system is that Mike and I went biking, this is my boyfriend, we went biking today, and there was a period of time where we were just biking side by side, we weren't talking at all. And it's probably the closest, it was just the best, you know? And we had good conversations today and stuff, but that was like really magical. And so I think that I'm such a verbal, you know, we're a lot of moms here, a few dads, yeah, I don't know, we're very verbal people. A lot of times the regulation comes in the presence, not in the yakety yak. And so when I'm talking about mindfulness and paying attention and attending to nonverbals and body language and stuff, you're paying attention. You're not necessarily saying everything that pops into your head. You're trying to stay in present awareness and regulation yourself. And so you will regulate your kids, but you might just need to do it through calm presence rather than, you know, the crazy mommy voice that we all are capable of. Oh, I'm going to just breathe now. Yeah.
No, I find what works a lot for me. I've raised kids for a long time. I finally figured it out with my second one. It's like when she starts getting upset, I stop.
Great.
And I just wait.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't talk or engage with her when she's upset.
And you don't go away. I want to emphasize the brilliance of your intervention. It's a two-part intervention. She's quiet, so she's not upregulating an already dysregulated kid, and she stays present. Her cool limbic brain is cooling her child's limbic brain. That only took you 2 kids in?
2 kids.
Good
I
job.
finally learned the second one. But I just can't believe how much it works, because then she comes back and she's gathered her thoughts, and then it gives her space to have her own integrity.
And she's doing it, I don't know what the speed, you know, like scientifically is, but she's doing it much faster because you're present. It's
the opposite, exact that.
okay.
We went on vacation recently, and my daughter brought 2 of her friends, and pretty much the whole week they were bratty teenagers, and I was, you know, basically really angry that we brought them. You know, what were we thinking with 3 teenagers on the road, and then on the plane on the way the next morning, I sat next to my daughter, and they used to have their headphones on all the time. You know, so it's not like I can sit.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to talk to her all week because she's had these 2 friends.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been had these kind of mother-daughter conversations that we usually have anyway. And I was just angry at her. You know, when, you know, they went to dinner, they didn't really thank you to my father. You know, it was all kind of like that. And I was so angry, I was so mad. And, you know, I finally kind of just started talking to her about how angry I was with her. And she started crying. And my wife was like, "You okay? Everything okay?" And I'm out of here. I just wanted to show her I was really angry. I said it was respect thing. You know, you weren't respecting us. It was worse with the friends. And then she started crying, and she said, "Well, they were starting to bug me too." And I was like, then we started having this great conversation.
Okay. So why is that a bad example? What's that a bad example of?
I mean, I don't know how do you, it's like the only way I could get her to get her headphones off and to have her conversation.
Was by being real and present.
Yeah, but also be like,
well, that's real and present. I mean, I'm not trying to sugarcoat. I mean, I don't know. Does this talk sound kind of, is it sort of do I sound namby-pamby tonight? I don't want to be namby-pamby. But I like that because I think what's true, you're speaking your truth, and it's not accusatory. You're talking about the impact of her behavior on yourself, which is your truth. And the extent to which you're tuned to her and we're able to have mentalization about what her experience of having these friends, they were upset, you know what I mean? That you're able to understand how you feel and communicate it and also understand how she feels. That's called intimacy, isn't it?
Well, you know what's interesting is I think that we do think we're either screaming like banshees or we're using a crazy mommy voice.
Yeah.
There's no in between.
Yeah.
And I hear people say all the time, I have to stay in control for my kids.
I can't show them that I'm upset. It's like, but that's real. If you're
Well,
just
but you need to know that the thing that, I guess for me, this is about the attachment stuff from the beginning, which is the disconnection is what's upsetting. And you really articulated that well. For a lot of us, we get mad because we're feeling disconnected. And I don't understand this because I treat couples too. And I don't understand why we do the thing that is the opposite of what we're trying to get at. So we want to be closer to our kids. So what we do is we start screaming at them or our partner, right? It's weird, right? And the reason we do that is that some really primitive attachment stuff, feeling of helplessness, of being out of control, ashamed, we go into these death spirals of disconnection. Every time you're in that place, you're not being mindful and present in the relationship. What you're describing in your example is connectivity. So it's, right, do you see what the difference is here? So it's really about showing up whole. It's not being in control or out of control in that way that I'm going to do my crazy mommy voice to show them that I'm rageful and in control. It's to get in touch with the fact that you're actually not rageful. You're feeling tremendously hurt and lonely. And the reason that worked is you went there. Because you could have just reamed her out for being obnoxious and rude to your father. You could have had that. I could have had that conversation with my kid and it could have gone south. But you didn't do that. You stayed present and non-accusatory. Couple last things, yeah.
I just feel like, for me, I feel like I've done the whole gamut, like all the stuff you're not supposed to do and all the stuff you are supposed to do, but when I've had the best success, when, like, if someone, let's just say one of my kids got really mad at me and called me a name. Let's just say a bitch, for example, and we're sitting.
This never happened to any of us, so we're listening.
Let's just say that happened. That's a big trigger for me, because that comes back to the respect thing. And when I am able to just, and not even respond, just sit there and look at them, and that's the last thing, it's like hanging in the air. And I'm not even responding to it. I could wait a minute or 2 minutes or whatever, and I always get, I'm sorry.
During that space that's open, what are you thinking and feeling, and what do you think he's thinking and feeling?
Well, first of all, I can only do that when I'm grounded.
Ha ha ha! Yay! Good take home. That's right. You can only do this thing that is successful and keeps the intimacy and restores the respect when you are mindful and present in your own life and not in a reactive
That's
place.
interesting, because I guess what you're saying is, because I'm grounded, then I'm actually, the only way the interaction can continue, which is what they want ultimately, I guess, is that they need to join me in that grounded.
That's right. And what happens is they're calling you names, the woman they love the most in the world. They're feeling some horrible disconnection. You're staying present. This is another beautiful, look at this. I didn't plant any of these people in the audience. The examples are just lining up, right? Because I'm making a point that I'm speaking a certain kind of truth here. So you're grounded and calm, cool brain, under a 5 or a 6. You're upset, but you're present. You're not doing crazy old stories and reactivity. You're staying present, and then he gets to have his feelings and come and re-engage with you. It doesn't always work like that. Sometimes we yell at them. But what we can also do is say this. This is an ownership thing. This works really well also. Let's try this again. Do you guys do that? This is going south. Let's try this again, even to the point of leaving the room and coming back in. Or take 2, you know, like directing a movie. If you're noticing that you are losing your cool, and that the discussion, I do this with your partner too, and your parents, and I mean, this works with everybody. I'm really sorry, this is not going the way I wanted to. Can we start over again? They're very generous about that, our kids. They're happy to have it start over again too. They might even say, I'm really glad for that. I don't like the way it's going either. My younger kid's 20, she finally can do that. There's hope. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.